talk about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
This is a perfect case for solved or unsolved because it's been alleged for a long time, at least in the general public, that Butch Defeo, who I believe was 23 at the time, shot and killed 6 members of his family, his mom and dad, and 4 of his siblings on, I believe it was November 13th, 1974, the year I was born. So, why is it solved or unsolved? Well, new evidence has come to light a few years ago that maybe the real murderer of at least part of the family was his younger sister, Dawn. So, in this family structure, you have Ronnie Defeo Sr., you have the mother, who is, I think she was Italian. They're both Italian, and they're both connected through family to the mafia. Then you have the rest of the siblings, the younger siblings, 2 boys, 2 girls, Dawn Defeo and Butch. The family dynamics in that house was absolutely crazy from my research. Ronnie Defeo, the dad, was a typical, he was an abuser. He was an abuser, not sexual abuser. He was a physical abuser, verbal abuser of his family. He was the head of the house, and he made sure that everybody knew that. He would oftentimes abuse his wife. I believe her name was Louisa. So much so that she would have to wear long sleeve clothing while she's sitting out at the pool by at least one account. He was a big man. He was almost 300 pounds, portly, not muscular. Well, you could say he was fat. But he did not seem to get along very well with any members of his family inside that house. A lot of verbal abuse, a lot of physical abuse. He knocked his wife down a set of steps. All this taking place in there, and the 23-year-old Butch Defeo bears the brunt of it. So by that I mean he's the man of the house, second man in the house, and he has to stick up for everybody else. But he gets the verbal lashing, he gets the beatings as well. But by all accounts, he was a spoiled kid. By that I mean his dad came from money, and I believe he worked at, Ronnie Defeo Sr. worked at a car dealership and was somewhat financed through his wife's father, Mike, who had ties to the mafia. It has been alleged that Ronnie Defeo Sr., gave Ronnie Defeo Jr. $500 a week spending money. He did work at the car dealership with his dad. He didn't really have a title. Okay, he just did whatever needed done at that time. But Ronnie Defeo Jr., and I'm going to start calling him Butch, one, so we don't confuse Ronnie Defeo Sr., Ronnie Defeo Jr., and that's what everybody called him, was Butch. Butch was a drug user, and he would oftentimes, smoke weed, heroin, from what I understand, coke. Nothing was really off limits with him. But so did, according to Butch, his sister, Dawn. Dawn had a new boyfriend. Dawn was I should have looked and seen exactly how old she was, but I'm going to say she was in her late teens. 19 maybe. And she was a heavy-set girl. And her dad used to pick on her about that. Well, she got a boyfriend, and the boyfriend and her were going to run away to Florida because of the abuse in that household. It was just not a good environment to be raised in. Mostly because of Ronnie Defeo Sr. He was the problem. Well, Butch, after years of this torment and abuse, had enough of it. And on the night of the murders, allegedly, Butch was in that house, sitting upstairs in a television room, watching a war movie, when everybody went to bed. While the movie is playing, Ronnie Butch says a figure, but all he could see was the black hands, handed him a .35 caliber rifle, and he went and systematically went to each bedroom, starting with the parents, and murdered them. Now that has been the narrative for many years. Much like Jeffrey McDonald's case, just like Chris Watts' case, other cases where a family is annihilated by one of their own, you can't believe it. Again, we believe it more now because we've seen it happen in the past. But back then, 1974, not heard of. Very rare. Butch goes into a local drinking establishment that he had been to many times the next night and says, "Come quick. I think my mother and father are shot." Now that's interesting to me. And this will come into my assessment a little later, but he only says his mother and father are shot. He doesn't say anything about the siblings. They pile in, according to the barkeep, they pile into Butch's car. They drive. They discover the carnage. Police are called. Investigation begins. First thing they do is they take Butch into custody. Not for what you think. Not for the murders. But for his protection. Now why? Well, because he said that the mob did it. And he named a specific guy. So, they took him into custody to keep him safe. Through the course of his stay at the police station, he eventually confesses to the murders. He's arrested. There's a trial. At the trial, it is brought up that he is going to plead insane. The insanity defense. So how do they play that up? They play that up by saying a demon, black hands, handed him the rifle. But that leads to the Amityville Horror and 9 movies and countless books. Whether that's true or not is for another discussion. But we are looking strictly at Butch's involvement in these murders. When police were going through the house, they noticed a .35 caliber rifle box in Butch's bedroom. It was empty. The ballistics that were there, the criminologists and the CSI team stated that a 35 caliber they had recovered had gone through one of the parents through the mattress and was laying on the floor. By looking at that, he said that's 35 caliber. So they knew that they were looking for a 35 caliber weapon. Well, they find the empty box in Butch's thing. Okay, well, where's the gun? That almost sealed his fate. At the police station, he confessed. He took them to where he discarded the rifle. Scuba divers recovered it. Also, some clothing, a scabbard for the rifle, and a holster for another gun, which is also going to be key. Shell casings or live ammunition, and a storm drain. And they recovered all this. Now, how did they recover all this? Through Butch's confession. Okay, so that's important. They go to trial. It's a pretty clear cut and dry case. He tries the insanity defense. He gets on stand to testify for himself, and he eventually says, I killed him. Once I started, I couldn't stop. Sealed his fate. Guilty. 6 counts of murder. So through the years, Butch has lost all of his appeals. In his appeals, in one of his appeals, he made up a person. And said, this person was with me when I murdered my dad and my mom. That's it. He does say he changes his story, not only about this made-up person. So the police get this appeal and they look for this made-up person. He never existed. It was just a lie. He was basically trying to, win his appeal. It didn't work. They found it out. Where he was accompanied by 2 friends. One's name was Augie, and the other, I want to say, was Bobby. Augie, they were all down in the basement. Dawn comes down. She starts saying, we got to kill him, blah, blah, blah. Augie chickens out. He leaves. Bobby goes upstairs and starts playing the piano to try, and this is Butch telling the story, and I'm like, what is he playing the piano for at 2 in the morning? What is going on? Apparently, the dad and mom were arguing in the bedroom. Bobby did not want them to hear that argument, so he started playing the piano. They come upstairs, they hear the argument. All 3 of them, Dawn, Butch, and Bobby, walk up the steps, open the door. Dad, they get into an argument. Dad starts coming at him. He shoots. They have a handgun with him. Bobby shoots. They kill the mother. That's another story. He changes his story to say, listen, my sister Dawn is the one who killed the kids. Then I killed her. So what he says happens, now this is from 1974 till he just died, I believe, just a few years ago. The story he tells is that the abuse in the house had taken the toll. And his sister came down and was egging him on down in the basement. Come on, we got to kill him. We have to, he's the problem, blah, blah, blah. They got drunk. She got high. He got high with her. Finally, she goes up. She grabs the rifle, brings it down to him. That's the black hands that was handing him the rifle. They both go up. They go into mom and dad's room. Opens the door. He hears a shot. He thinks he's been shot. But it's actually his sister shooting from a handgun Remember the holster that's found in the storm drain? In an instant, he turns with the rifle and shoots his mother. He then shoots his father, and and the variation of how this took place has changed. So, but that's the gist of it. He then leaves for a period of time. He doesn't know how long. When he comes back, he goes up to Dawn's bedroom. She has already killed the other kids, her siblings. He then kills her. That's one version. I believe that's the last version that he stuck to. Now, did he do it or did Dawn do it?
I